Start event. Yep. And then let's start here again. Let's just see what we're doing. Hi, everyone. I think we're streaming now. Hello from Middle Tennessee. Hi again, says Elvira. And let's just see. I see this looks like it was from last time. It's breaking up. How does it look, folks? Can you see me? It's on. Some stop and go with the video, but you can hear me more clearly, I'm hoping. Sounds good. Sounds good, says Denise. much better. Good. Okay, here we go. Working now. Sounds great. Beautiful. I already know we've got it going here. I think we're okay. All righty. Let's go. Let's talk. I'll see if I can. I don't know if I can go over because I have a class tonight, as I always do. For those of you who are not gateway to homeopathy students, by all means, do consider it. That's how many of you have come here. Hi, Harry. Thank you for sending me that information. I much appreciate what you send. It's always great to round out our information. So thank you. And let's see. Yep, I think we're doing all right. I think we're fine. So tonight we're going to be talking about a remedy that is has an interesting story to it. So I'm gonna share it with you. The remedy is Zincum metallicum. Metallicum. And then we have a lot of remedies that are metallicum, or metallicum, and there are others. And so zincum, it's zinc, Zincum, and then metallicum is the second word. Metallicum. Zincum metallicum. And this is one of our great remedies for suppressed skin eruptions. There are other aspects of this medicine that we like, exhaustion, etc. But the way that I have used it through the years has always been for suppressed skin eruptions. And it doesn't mean that we use it just because someone has had an eruption that was suppressed on the skin. But when there's a condition that fits Zincum metallicum. And so it's a medicine. I'm going to read from my Materia Medica here. The remedy is used for someone who is thoroughly exhausted, emotionally, physically, and mentally, and is unable to fight off illness that prevents the immune system from performing properly. The person may be unable to express himself freely, but constantly complains and moans. Physical symptoms include weakness and restlessness, trembling and twitching of the muscles, coughing up phlegm, poor digestion. There's a lot that goes on with this, but eczema may present, especially in someone who is anemic, as you can imagine, someone who is thoroughly browned like that, browned off so that they're exhausted all the time, might indeed be anemic. And even highly emotional, suppressed skin eruptions, especially those that are the result of the use of zinc skin formulas. And that's where I want to place a lot of my emphasis tonight. The symptoms that may become, I get back to that. The symptoms may become worse from touch and drinking wine, and better from eating and discharges. Zinc is is important because we use it so frequently. Zincum metallicum. Zinc is found in gross form, and it's used to help people stave off colds. They often take zinc tablets, etc. It's a main ingredient in many diaper rash ointments. And remember this. This is important. And I don't remember if I've told you. Yes, here it is. I recall a story of a baby that was brought to me who was suffering from convulsions, seizures, every time the mother put him to the breast. This had begun to happen roughly 3 months earlier, around Christmas time. And hoping a clue as to what might have brought this on, I asked what happened around that time. And that's the kind of questions we ask. What happened around Christmas time? And the mom explained that the family had been visiting her in-laws, and near that time, her baby developed a severe diaper rash. And the mother-in-law offered zinc ointment. that she kept handy, and the rash promptly disappeared. Yeah, you put it on and it pushes it deeper. It was about this time the baby had the first convulsion, but no more diaper rash. Now, it's interesting because when we're living our lives, such as this situation where this mom was just living her life, Christmas, in laws, nursing, all of this is just part of her life. It's hard for her to kind of tease it all apart and figure out that there must be some connection. Um, and so I made the connection because when there's a diaper rash that's suppressed, I did not ask if it was a zinc ointment. I knew that there was a possibility that the rash, the suppressed rash, could have something to do with seizures. And so I made the connection that it was certainly possible the zinc ointment had suppressed the skin eruption and replaced it with a neurological response. And that's exactly what happens with this medicine. I explained it's not the medicine causes it, but these are the kinds of things we see when we see a skin eruption that has been suppressed by gross use of zinc. Then the medicine that we might use could be zincum metallicum. And it was really interesting because the mom was very relieved because she was, of course, quite worried her baby was having seizures every time she laid him into her arms and nursed him. And she'd taken him to the doctor, and the doctor wanted to put the baby on seizure medication. Of course, she didn't want to do that. So then she said, "Okay, I certainly am never going to use that ointment again." But she said, I really didn't use the ointment. It was my mother-in-law who used it. It was at her home, and I didn't have it with me. So interesting. The baby was fine. The baby got better. We used zincum metallicum 200C. I don't remember how often I used it. I don't even know if I put it in here. I probably only used a few doses, maybe 3 doses over a 2-day period of time. And the baby stopped seizing. The diaper rash was fine. And then I think this was now getting into Easter, and grandma came to visit. And the baby had a mild rash now, and grandma brought her arsenal with her. And she brought in it was her zinc in gross form, zincum, and it was not zincum, it's called zinc, of course. They're not going to use the Latin term. Or it was an ointment that had zinc in it, and she put it on the baby, and lo and behold, we know what happened, right? The baby started seizing again within a very short order. So because it had been better for at least a month by using zincum metallicum, it helped antidote or uproot the condition that the gross zinc had caused. This time, the young mother explained to her mother-in-law, and they threw the ointment away. So no, we don't put zinc on our skin. We don't use ointments on the skin for eruptions unless they are homeopathic or unless they're food. Now, what do I mean by food? What would we put on skin that would be like food? Let's see if somebody can give me some ideas on that, because I think it's so important. Did I use something to clear the zinc ointment? Yeah, I just used zinc. Zincum metallicum 200C. That's what I used. I did not use camphor. I knew nothing about using camphor in those days. I didn't know the banergies. Let's see. Now, the restless leg. Let's see if somebody can come up with tallow ointment, honey, coconut oil, butter. Yes, absolutely. Tallow balm, manuka honey, yummy coconut, shellfish, olive oil, butter, shea butter, beeswax. Those are certainly very, very useful. Now, I have noted personally that those people who hail from certain parts of the world are more comfortable using certain kinds of things on their skin. So those who hail from the Mediterranean world or south of the Mediterranean, where it's warmer, that those tropical foods that are taken indigenously in those areas or used indigenously in those areas are often more comfortable with them. So coconut oil, olive oil, very good. And I also find that conversely, people who live in Northern Europe find it very uncomfortable to put coconut oil or olive oil on their skin, and instead they like tallow or lard or butter. So almond oil, that's a possibility too. Raw meat for a shiner. And honey can be very good too, but we have to be watchful of that when for a young baby. Sometimes honey can be a little difficult for a baby to get accustomed to because of the pollen in it. It might be too much, but we can certainly try that out. There's no doubt about it. So now, restless legs. Zinc metallicum has as part of its condition, as part of its keynotes, there is a convulsive type action. So whether it's neurological and it's seizures, or whether it's feeling like a convulsive action, I'm not sure that's exactly, but the jerkiness to the legs. I've had restless legs, and I know how very uncomfortable it is, and it feels sometimes as though the legs are comfortable and then they jerk, not unlike the way a seizure can sometimes come on. And so, if you look at homeopathic medicines being used for in combination, that many companies make combination remedies, and I like many of them. I like boron and OHM and Washington and Hahnemann and Highlands and Highlands is unfortunately we're not seeing Highlands anymore, but um, many of those good companies, Thompson's in Canada and Helios in England, etc. Those are all companies that I think make good products that don't use 15 remedies. I don't think that's a good plan to use 15 remedies in one medicine. But they might use 3 or 4. You'll find that if they're selling a restless leg syndrome remedy, you're going to find zinc in there, most likely. Maybe cuprum too. These metals have a lot to do with jitteriness or seizing. And let's see if I can come up with another word to describe this. It was then that grandma, so I'm going back and reading this, came for a visit. I'm seeing the new rash again. Promptly smeared the baby with zinc ointment again, and it was no more than a day or so when the convulsions that had been uprooted for over a month promptly returned, and I received a phone call from the frantic mom who almost disbelievingly that this could be so predictable, had to explain to the well-intentioned disbelieving grandma and re-administered zinc metallicum 200C, and it was probably again just a few times, 2 to 3 times over about 2 days. That's all that was needed. And she said a few days later she called me with the inevitable news that the rash was back. That's where we want the pathology. We want the pathology on the skin. We don't want it in the central nervous system. And because once the convulsions were gone, the rash would return. So a few more doses of zinc metallicum 200 and the rash was also gone. Excuse me. One of the ways we know that homeopathy acts is when we stop its use and return to an allopathic drug. Sometimes this is what is needed to convince folks of its efficacy. Isn't that the truth? Now, with restless legs, I would not use generally a 200. I would start with a low potency, such as a 6, because we're going to be using it frequently, say twice a day. Especially that second dose is going to be used at night before bed, and it's every night for many nights until we can see a shift. All right. So I would use a 6. Maybe I'd use a 12. I might use a 30. I would start with the 6. That's how I would start this. If the 6 didn't act, I might go directly to 100. I don't sneak up. I go right to a middle potency. And Roost Tox 200 is also great for restless legs. You're absolutely right. Yes. And how about the shivers? I don't know what you mean by shivers. Shivers meaning, I think of shivers as someone's cold. But if you're talking about something where they are restless, that's a little different, or seizing. I only get jerky legs at night when I'm losing the fight against a herpes outbreak. Yep. And restless legs, I've heard B12 deficiency causes that. It matters not, my friends. Doesn't matter. And so why bother? Now, look, if you're eating foods that are good quality foods and they have B12 in them, then you don't want a supplement. So I am not a proponent of vitamins. I'm not saying we should never use them. There are circumstances, short term, in which I suppose I could rationalize their use. Um, but to use that long term, I would not do that because we're bifurcating. B12 is only one of a whole component of other B vitamins, B1, B2, B6. What about B40 that hasn't been discovered yet? Or perhaps it has, but we haven't heard about it. I think we're playing with fire. There's just not enough information and confidence that I have in using synthetic vitamins for good health, especially long term. Okay. Highlands, I believe, has been sold. That's what I've heard in the grapevine. That's why you're all having trouble getting a hold of the cell salts. Now you can still get cell salts, but you won't see them in the ubiquitous method, with those great little bottles, at least that I know of at this point. So don't hold me to that, but we will see what comes of that. Start with 200 of highly emotional. No. Mm-mm. I know that classical says that if someone is emotional or it is a psychological condition that we start in high potency. I totally disagree. I don't think the potency is is determined by that. I used to do that myself, and I found it very frustrating. So let me give you an example. When we were studying the G's in my materia medica, we went to gelsemium, and I explained that gelsemium 6 twice a day is incredible for shy children. Incredible for people who have a forthcoming event in which they have to make a presentation. And we use gelsemium 6, not 200, even though it's emotional, even though it's psychological. Doesn't mean we can't use a 200. It just means that idea I have scrapped long ago because of the use of energy protocols, for one thing. Another thing that classical often teaches, or at least is what I was taught through the years, is that the more concerning the condition, the higher the potency. And I disagree with that as well. The Banerjees have a beautiful protocol for uh, glioblastoma, and that is, a brain tumor, as well as um, benign tumors, and it's low potencies. There are 3s and 6s that they use. And yes, vitamins come in food forms. If it's a food, I'm in. I like people getting their nutrients through their foods. Did I say 100? I did not mean 100. Somebody says I've never heard her say 100. Excuse me, 200. If I said 100, I don't use 200 potency. All righty, let's see what else we've got here for questions. Vibration sensitivity, I can get Highlands here in Toronto. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad Toronto has them. If vitamins don't come from food, are synthetics by definitions, they cause potassium waste in the kidneys. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't think that was a question. I think it was a comment. Can it be used to get rid of diaper rash? Yes, it can. It's a great skin remedy for eczema, diaper rash. Absolutely. Okay. Vitamins come in food forms. I got that. I'm going to try zinc. It didn't help my friend who had glioblastoma. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm assuming that your friend was someone who knew what they were doing, because it's not overnight. It's not going to happen in days. It's going to happen over months, many, many months. When we see chronic conditions, the Banerjees used it for over a period of many months. So I know that a lot of people assume that if the remedy is not acting right away, they don't see a shift immediately, then that must mean that it's not acting. But no, there are some conditions and some medicines that move slower. If you have the Banerjee Protocol book, you'll see that psoriasis can take 2 years to clear. And hair loss can take an entire year. Could zinc diaper rash cream use in baby years cause major acne in teen years? Oh, I see. In baby years cause major acne. That's certainly possible, but we have to be aware of the source since our soil can be so depleted. Well, yeah, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Buy from local family farms. That's the answer. There's no doubt about that. People who follow me think this way and who join me in this kind of thinking are not the people who are going to eat, generally speaking, from fast foods on a regular basis, fast food stores and restaurants. Instead, I'm assuming that if you spend this much time learning homeopathy, that you're going to source your foods at least somewhat with intelligently. All righty. What of restless eggs that feel a sensation of boiling inside, not hot? All I can say is that crack open a Materia Medica and read up on Zincum metallicum. And if indeed that is covered there, even in a small way, then you may have yourself a dead ringer. But additionally, what I like to do is when I know that a specific medicine is for a specific condition, I just use the medicine. And then let's see. Let's not wonder what will happen. Let's find out. Okay, I think it's a better idea to move ahead. And I'll tell you, I was just talking to someone today, and she put it very aptly. And totally, we agree. We are in agreement. I like velocity. I want something. I want to move quickly. I don't want to overthink it. I want to just get and move forward. So, sailors, not motor boaters, right, Perry? All right. Acute problems of restless leg only if I eat out. Yes. Eating out can do that. Now, we talked about food, eating out. And if there was a stomach issue with eating out, let's see if anyone remembers what one of my favorite medicines that I like to use for when someone has ailments from eating out. We have just about a minute. Velocity is king. Yes, I used the energy protocol for psoriasis for over 2 years, and I saw it totally gone on scalp quickly. But then I stopped for almost a year, and it came back and manifested in lower parts of the body. It is now much improved. No more painful crack, bleeding, itchy skin. Please, praise God. Praise God is right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone's saying Nux vomica is the remedy, and it is one of my favorite remedies, but there's another one. There's another one. Activated charcoal could be helpful, but it's not homeopathic. Nux arsenicum, that's another good one. There's one more. Let's see if you folks can figure out. There's one more. And I teach it as ailments from restaurant food. Nux vomica, arsenicum, Nux arsenicum, Nux. It is a great one. They're both very good. There's one more, and if we have to go, I'm going to just tell you. Arsenicum is my friends on Facebook. Like Pulsatilla, Veronica, Pulsatilla. That was the one I was thinking of too. And here's where here's somebody else saying Pulsatilla, says Pamela. Absolutely, says Carenza. Yes, good job. Very nice job, Sophia says from Houston. Pulsatilla. Yes, Rachna. It's beautiful. So when it's when it's we're using classical homeopathy, and I don't use classical, but for those of you who come here with that little bit of background, you might say, well, this is not a pulsatilla person. This person is not sweet and charming and snuggly and lovely and craving ice cream. They just have trouble eating at restaurants. And it's a man. Big gruff man, for example. Big gruff man, I'd probably be more likely to give Nux vomica. But nonetheless, pulsatilla can still be useful because we're not using personality, because the personality is not the pathology. We only, with this medicine, with this method that I teach, these practical methods that are based mostly on the Banerjee protocols, with this method, it is only you're using the name of the condition and how it presents, what the symptoms are. We do not try to figure out whether or not the person is autistic, or if they're in the head too much, or they have long eyelashes, or they sleep on the left side. None of that, none of those characteristics have any value for us. We're going by the name of the condition. So, what's the name of the condition? Well, it depends on what this person's experiencing, but I would say ailments from restaurant food. That's the name of a condition. Yep, you bet. You bet. Lycopodium, says Michelle. Yeah, lycopodium can be very, all of those can be useful. And I kind of wanted people to see if they remembered pulsatilla because it's such a good remedy. And I don't want you to forget it. Particularly valuable is pulsatilla when the food that they've eaten was creamy. So ice cream or yogurt or whipped cream. I can eat all of those foods. I have no trouble with it. But when I have whipped cream that's ultra pasteurized, and it's very hard for me to get anything but ultra pasteurized in this neck of the woods. And sometimes I buy it in spite of that for the dessert I might be making. I know everyone's going to have just a little bit. It kills me to use it, but I do use it sometimes because it makes such a great difference in desserts. Um, I feel something going on in my stomach, and so I automatically take pulsatilla and it works every time. And I use pulsatilla in a 30. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. I've used it in a 200 too, but usually a 30. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting the Banerjee Protocol book for Christmas. You bet. You bet. Oh, interesting. Pulsatilla works great for tempura belly. Probably because tempura is deep fried. All right, my friends, it's wonderful to see you all. Now, next time, even though it looks like we're all done, I'm going back. I'm going to go back and catch up on those remedies that I didn't take up. I'd skipped some because we were working on viruses, etc., and other situations that I needed to move along in. And so we're going to go back and catch up on some that I left out, and now maybe I'll expand a little bit more on others. So I look forward to seeing you all next weekend. God bless all of you. Mwah, love to see you all. Take care. Bye.